Hi, this is Seth Robinson, and hardly a day goes by when you don't read one or two or maybe 200 stories about AI. But one caught my eye recently, and it caught my eye because it's really at the heart of what we've been exploring at CompTIA when it comes to AI and the workforce. And this article came from the Washington Post, and it was titled, "Bosses Are Looking for AI-Literate Candidates, but What Does That Mean?" And as you dive deeper into the article, it goes beyond AI literacy and just starts talking broadly about AI skills. And that, I think, is kind of the question of the hour. What exactly are we talking about when we talk about AI skills? And I think to start answering that question, we even have to take a step back and say, what are we even talking about when we talk about AI? CompTIA has written a white paper on building AI strategy where we get into this a little bit and we work on the definition. We talk about how AI is not really a single technology. It's a collection of technologies. It can manifest in different ways, and there can be different applications of AI. And so I like to think about it in an analogy that might be more familiar to everyone. It's probably the way that you read all of those AI stories or the way that you're watching this video, and that's the internet. What are we talking about when we talk about the internet? Are we talking about the ability to do searches and gather information? Are we talking about the ability to build web pages and write code that bring those web pages to life? Are we talking about the infrastructure that brings all of those information and those pages to each one of us? It really depends on the conversation we're having. It depends on the company, and AI or internet skills could mean any of those things. But certainly no one individual is going to have all of those skills. I think that same analogy applies when we're talking about AI. And at CompTIA, we've got a few different frameworks that we use to kind of dissect this problem and apply AI to the skill progressions that we are talking about when we're talking about how anyone would build their skills in the workplace today. And that starts with digital fluency. We've talked about that on the show before, and that's kind of the beginning of this article with AI literacy or AI fluency. Digital fluency, as we define it, is the ability to apply technology in a business setting. So it's not just using technology as a consumer, but it's knowing how to apply that in business, whatever the security requirements might be, or actually making it productive and going beyond just kind of a parlor trick with technology. The same thing applies to AI. We believe that there is a layer of AI in that digital fluency. So there is an AI literacy or an AI fluency that most, if not all, workers will need to have. In the same way that they're using their digital tools today and they're using the internet, they probably need to know how to use AI. How do you get information out of a chatbot? How do you sort through that information and ascertain if it's correct or not? Beyond that digital fluency, we get into targeted skills. And here's where things start to get a little interesting, kind of along the lines of that internet analogy. So if you're a software developer, then AI skills probably mean coding actual algorithms, or it might mean coding with AI as a partner. There's been a lot of focus on how AI is impacting software development life cycles. And if you're a software developer or a software engineer, you probably need to know that pretty intimately in order to perform your daily job functions. If you're an IT support specialist or a network administrator, there are a lot of other core functions that you need to focus on in order to do your job. And AI is definitely influencing those functions, but it's still not as central as it might be for a software developer or maybe even a data analyst. So there are all of these core targeted functions that people need to know in order to get into their job role. And AI is definitely influencing them, but they are often still not discrete AI skills that somebody has to learn. Once somebody does have a job and they begin to specialize or they begin to get more advanced, then we get into that advanced skill layer. And this is where we have the most focus on AI skills. We have a job taxonomy that talks about different job families like infrastructure or cybersecurity or data. And then we've built an AI framework that talks about different domains that might apply across the job families. So one example of an AI domain in our framework is AI security. This clearly applies to professionals that are working in the cybersecurity job family, but it also applies in some way to professionals that might be doing infrastructure or help desk or data. That application might be different. The skills that they need might be different, but there are many types of AI security skills that are going to be needed depending on what the job role is. Another example is AI interaction, and this is around working with AI in order to do a job. And the most common way that that happens today is interacting with a chatbot. And I think we've gotten away from the concept that there will be a job role called prompt engineer anytime in the future. But everyone needs to know a little bit about prompt engineering. They need to know a little bit about how do you enter input into an AI chatbot or an AI agent and start getting the output that you want. So this domain of AI interaction really applies across the entire workforce, and it can go from AI fluency into more advanced uses of getting a chatbot to turn into a sort of agent and do a series of tasks rather than simply give you some information that you're requesting. The other domains in our AI framework are AI DevOps, AI systems, AI architecture, and AI data analysis. And you can imagine how any of those would apply directly to professionals that might be in a given job family, but they also have application across job families as well. So there's a lot of complication and a lot of nuance when we talk about AI skills. There's definitely a lot of potential in AI, and it's going to be transformative. How exactly it does that transformation and what that means for skills and job roles is still yet to be determined. We're going to keep a close eye on it, and we're going to have a lot more information on AI. So if you want to check out any of this research that I talked about, you can visit CompTIA's website at comptia.org, and I will see you on the next Trend Watch.